Good morning, everyone. So I'm Dahlia, and I come to you from the beautiful campus of UC Santa Barbara, depicted here on the bottom left. And I'm also an advisor to the coolest project you can imagine, which has this nice science fiction cartoon on the right. It was founded by an amazing team. Some of them are here with us today. So co-founder Philippe Rezebek, you can stand up and show everybody the nice yellow t-shirt. We have Tara, communication and marketing. And it's an open project and open source. So we already have a growing community of developers contributing to us. One of them is here in the audience. Ruslan, stand up. Okay, and I'm going to try to wake you up with this really, really cool project. So what is SpaceComputer and why are we doing this? So in a nutshell, SpaceComputer is an orbital root of trust that provides a platform for running secure and confidential computations on satellites in orbit. And why are we doing it? Because the kind of security guarantees and properties that you can obtain by running workloads on satellites transcends anything that you can achieve here on Earth or is very difficult to achieve here on Earth. So if all hell breaks, we may still be securely running and operating up there in orbit. What is SpaceComputer? How do we do this? So we build a network that runs workload on satellites, and how we do it, what are the challenges, some of the design considerations and use cases is what I'm going to spend the next 10 minutes or so on. All right, so what are we building with? So today, luckily, there's a growing ecosystem, exponentially growing ecosystem of providers who allow you to launch into orbit what we sometimes call a box. A box is just a compute device, a small one. So for example, it could be a board with Raspberry Pi and some storage on it. And you can run general purpose operating systems and software on it. And there are partners that will launch it into orbit and maintain communication with it. We have to thank SpaceX primarily, but not only. There's an exponentially growing number of launches and literally already thousands of satellites in orbit. In Santa Barbara, we can actually hear them every few weeks. We can hear those launches. They're not very far away in the Vanderbilt Air Base. They're very loud. There's also a growing system of providers that allow you to communicate with satellites. So not very far in the future, every satellite communication capable device here on Earth would be able to communicate through a provider called Iridium that already has a constellation of satellites in low Earth orbit, LEO, and allow you to communicate back on Earth and with the satellites. And satellites can communicate with each other on Iridium, or they can communicate with ground stations here on Earth. Communicating across satellites is sometimes done directly and very fast, or if they're not in line of sight, it can be done through a ground station and back into orbit. So this is what we work with. Today, we don't know exactly what the guarantees will be 10 years from now, but it's probably going to be better than today. In the worst case today, you can think of it as a SIM card that you upload and sometimes work and has limited capacity and high latency. But we expect all of these challenges to for sure go away in 10 years or a lot less. So this is what we should think about as the opportunity. So what is the opportunity or the value prop of running workloads on satellites? Well, in a nutshell, it's all about unique security properties. To begin with, once a box is launched securely and deployed into space, nobody can come later and hack into it. It's purely, perfectly tamper-proof at this point. It's also leak-proof at this point. Anything that is not already running on the satellite, nobody can come with a probe or a screwdriver and exploit some side channel on the satellite. If you store information on the satellite and press a delete command, and there's no API to retrieve this information, it is delete proof. Nobody can come and capture the disk and scrape and call the NSA and scrape bits off of your hard drive. The communication with satellites is also secure in the sense that if you have a secure area, and it doesn't have to be larger than a few kilometers across, nobody can jam the communication. You can safely guarantee to upload information onto the satellite or retrieve back information. So if you want to have a broadcast channel that you guarantee that can be reached, and then when you post something, anybody with direct communication can retrieve it, this provides that. Satellites are also orbiting in a predictable trajectory. So somebody here on Earth knows when a satellite is going to be above head, and they guarantee that they're speaking with the right satellite, and they can provide attestation as to the geolocation. So this provides all sorts of decentralization and Siebel protection properties. Okay, so all of this is yeah. I also want to admit, at this point, it's a nascent technology. And like anything in the security space, there are risks. Right now, it's a nascent technology, so the root of trust that exists in various points of the supply chain is probably less mature and less trusted than some deployed, solid infrastructures here on Earth. But I emphasize today, it's gonna evolve. It's a nascent technology. There's also dependence of communication from the ground. That would be an attack surface. And the software, once that's deployed, that presents a point of vulnerability, especially when it gets upgraded or improved. But with this, we think that everybody in this room, anybody in the crypto space, and generally in the security space, should think about deploying workloads on SpaceComputer. So there are tons of use cases. You just have to come and build them. And we will host arbitrary, secure computations for you. Some of the uses that we are thinking of is if you're running a blockchain, come run a validator. One of your validators or a few of your validators should run on a satellite, just to have a different, diversified root of trust and security properties. I already mentioned, an eternal bulletin board for posting information. We're also building in-house some services that you can consume directly. One of our first use cases that is already prototyped, and you can go to our website and access for a full front-end demonstration, is a random number generator. And this is a true random number generator because in the end, it's going to capture cosmic radiation, bits taken from cosmic radiation, attach to them in hardware, and send them back to Earth. But the coolest thing about building a platform is always that you build a platform and other people will come and build use cases that you never even dreamed of. So we invite everybody to think and create and come with original ideas and contribute. All right, let me talk a little bit about the how. I'm doing great on time. So we published a blue paper back in November. Why blue paper? Well, it's a white paper, but it's up in the sky, so it turns blue. It's also a preliminary, preliminary vision, which will be followed by a white paper. And in a nutshell, what we say in the blue paper is that our core design goal is to minimize what we deploy on the satellite and then customize everything else and also accelerate and scale by accompanying it with services here. So the goal of minimizing the trusted compute base on the satellite is that we minimize the attack surface. It's easy or easier to verify. It also adheres to the capacity limitations that currently the technology suffers from. And by deploying a core that you can then, deploy workloads in a sandbox manner, this means we don't have to upgrade the software much. And we can really have a solid, stable software deployed on these satellites. Our high-level architecture is a two-tier architecture, which borrows largely from the way you scale blockchains here on Earth, like Ethereum or other blockchains. So there's a layer one, which is the root of trust and really the authoritative chain. And then there's a tier two of services and networks and chains that anchor onto layer one and derive their finality and their authority from layer one. So let's talk about the layer one first. This is the one that is celestial. It runs up in orbit. So that's going to optimize for the limited communication and the intermittent nature of the communication. So we're emphasizing linear communication with agile topology. We're going to employ basic protocols that borrow from the hot stuff family of protocols from the linearity. We're working with the Espresso team to potentially make use of the Hotshot software base. And we're harnessing and planning improvements which really borrow from state-of-art protocols. So in reducing latency, using protocols like Hot Stuff 1 and Alpenglow, increasing parallel throughput through parallel proposing, using protocols like Audubon, and so forth. On top of this layer 1, we will run any EVM workload, and in the future, potentially a WASM container as well. So you can customize and deploy your normal Solidity EVM workloads up in space. And then connecting and anchoring with our layer 1, we will support essentially any layer 2 chains here on Earth for scaling, for speeding up, and making up for the capacity here on Earth. So layer 2s generally come in two flavors, commit chains and state channels. And the coolest thing ever is that we're also going to introduce a third variant, which is a hybrid between commit and state channels. So what that means, so commit chains are rollups, could be optimistic, could be ZK rollups. They prepare and scale a computation off-chain, but then they derive finality and settle on the layer 1. This is great for trust and security, trust minimization and security, but it does incur the same settlement and finality latency as layer 1, and sometimes more if it's an optimistic rollup. State channels take liquidity, bridge liquidity from the layer 1, but once they take it, they can transact with it indefinitely without having to settle on layer 1. This is great. This is especially great for something like SpaceComputer, where latency and capacity is limited. However, state channels right now are far less prevalent than rollups, and they're mostly used for very specialized purposes, like payment channels, like Lightning Network on Bitcoin. So what we're doing is we're also introducing a third form, the hybrid form, and the idea is very simple. We borrow a trick from Ebb and Flow from Stanford, where you wrap a layer 2 with another step. And in this step, the validators of the layer 2 network vote on the finality with stake behind their vote. So you don't have to care about what the layer 2 is made of and know anything about the internals and the intrinsic protocols. You just look at the votes, and you can slash somebody who double voted very easily in a smart contract. And with this, you can enjoy very fast finality on Earth, very high throughput, which is backed by staked pre-confirmations. And you can always defer to the layer 1 as a last resort for security. Okay. Supplementing all of this is an RPC gateway that allows any device and any chain here on Earth to connect with satellites, either for their own services or for the layer 1 in order to anchor on it. And it's already fully prototyped as a front end, and again available for you to go online on our website and give it a try. So we think there are infinite. Thank you for that. We think there are infinite possibilities and lots of use cases, and we really invite everybody to come. But we also recognize that you might have some doubts and some questions. And trust me, we have a lot of questions and sometimes doubts that keep us up at night. But what I want to emphasize is don't look at it today. Think big, think visionary, think about what it will be between now and 10 years from now when it's surely prevalent. And to do that, I want to take you back in time to about 70 years ago, to the era where satellite technology actually was developed. So President Eisenhower in 1958 deployed this project, secret military project called Corona. And the idea was to fill a gap in military reconnaissance and go and be able to capture images from anywhere on Earth where military aircraft cannot go and collect surveillance information. So they deployed these satellites and they orbited and covered all of Earth, but they had a problem. 1958, think back, most of you were not born there, I wasn't born there, but we all know there was no digital photography till much, much later. So how do you get these images back here on Earth? Well, the engineers of Corona did not sit back and say, oh, this is hard, this is impossible, this will never happen. Instead, they devised a system where they dropped buckets from the satellites carrying physical undeveloped film. Now imagine these buckets were dropped from orbit to Earth, and aircraft captured them in orbit, mid-air, circling above the Pacific, and in 10-15 years of operations, until some digital photography started developing, they captured hundreds of these buckets with undeveloped film, carrying priceless images and bringing them back on Earth. Okay, so by comparison, what we work with today in space computer is a luxury, and we're very excited about the future. All right, apparently I have time for questions. All the hard questions to Philip, please. Questions? All right, all the easy questions to me. Yeah? So we have a system of RFPs on GitHub. We welcome contributions. We're already working with a small but revolving community all across the stack, from protocol to experimenting with our testing on Earth platform, developing new use cases. Come and talk to us. Anything. Yeah.
For security, you needed to secure 2-3 kilometers around the satellite. How do you do that?
No. What I said, let me be a little bit more precise. If you are worried about jamming the communication for a ground station, which is here on Earth and is subject to the normal threats that you would have. So on the internet, you do DDoS attack on TCP/IP. Here, you would actually have to physically be in the proximity of my device, and so long as you don't get near me more than 1 or 2 kilometers, you cannot jam my communication here on Earth. So if you're really worried about, very, very severe threats like state-level actors trying to shut down ground stations, and you have a farm in Australia that nobody can access for a few kilometers, or anywhere secure on Earth, or if you just want to be geo-distributed and make sure that you're not suffering any local threats or jurisdictional threats, nobody can interfere with your communication from such a ground station. That's all you need, just a few kilometers of untouched area. And then you're resilient to any type of attack. This is not something that's easily achieved even on the internet today. Yeah, good question. One last question? If not, find us. Yeah, go ahead. That's a really good question. This is not an incremental project on a market which is ready and you could really gauge market fit today. This is a pie in the sky, literally. But already we see a lot of interest in running validator nodes, in getting a feed of our randomness for cryptographic purposes. Be an optimist, like us. All right, thank you, and we'll be around to take more questions.